where do you want me?
Trigger. I think we got one here.
Bouncing on my knee. Where do you think I want ya? Hands on the hilt, stupid. First thing, didn't have any teeth. Oi, both hands. I said both hands. Right, 10 digits. Round the blunt bit. Give it a tug. Left foot, right foot, collect your brand, back on the barge.
Welcome to Franchise Killer Podcast, where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Alright, man. Alright, man, let's do it. So, to my right here is...
David.
I'm Reese. You are...
Ariana.
And way over there...
Farmer peasant number 7. Sorry.
How much did you get paid for this part?
About, a couple shillings.
And
For a loaf of bread.
unfortunately, AJ is not with us today. He is in the midst of moving across the country, but he will be submitting his review in audio form, and I will submit that at the end of the episode. We are on to the second film of Noah's choosing, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
King Arthur.
King Arthur. Yes.
Arthur.
This film was directed by Guy Ritchie, who also helmed Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Aladdin, the remake, and The Gentleman, a film I saw recently and very much loved. So this is starring Charlie Hunnam, Jude Law, Eric Bana, Astrid Burgess Frisbee, sorry if I butchered your name, yeah,
Miss Frisbee.
and Jimon Hansu, who plays that guy in every movie you've ever seen.
Ooh, he's another guy that kind of blends into the background, but always seems to fit.
Yeah, the screenplay by Joby Harold, Guy Ritchie, and Lionel Wilgram. So yeah, 3 writers on this one. So on this podcast, we will first discuss our history with this movie, whether we've seen it before or not. Then we will break down the story, which I've pulled from Wikipedia. Afterwards, we will talk about the franchise as a whole and give our brief reviews, and then talk about why it failed or did not fail. In this case, I think we know what happened.
We
Amen,
sort of know
sister.
what happened, though, honestly. It's
Amen
only
again.
that's a little bit of knowing what happened.
Yeah. So, let's talk about it. David, had you seen this movie before, and what did you think before you went into this rewatching for the episode?
So this isn't typically the kind of movie I go out of my way to go see on my own. But Irina really wanted to go see it and was like, guess who's coming with me? And I was like, all right, guess I'm going to go see it. And
David is shackled to me everywhere I go.
so yeah, Irina dragged me to it, and I decided that I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm going to see what this King Arthur thing's all about. At first, when it started, I didn't know how I felt. And by the end of it, I actually liked it a lot. And that was the only thing I can say about that.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yeah, that's what I said. Irina dragged me to it.
Oh, she dragged you to it. Okay, to the theater.
Yeah, she literally grabbed me. If you see her muscles, you know. She literally grabbed me by my neck and like pulled me into the seat.
All right, Irina.
All right, so David already narrated half of basically my story, but I didn't know this film was out. I remember Reese telling me I should go watch it because he had just finished watching it and said it was really good, so I should check it out. And I decided, since, David likes going to the movies with me, we would just have an evening of it.
I do. Yeah.
And so I went in without any expectation, really. And I think that helped. I enjoyed it a lot more than I would have if I had seen, trailers or any kind of build up for it.
Yeah.
So that was my experience.
All right, and going over to Noah.
I think I watched this for the first time with you, Reese.
Common theme.
But to begin with, I've always really loved just the cheesy sort of fantasy kind of movie, even if I know it's dumb.
It's a guilty pleasure of ours to just watch like cheesy fantasy that's just good enough to kind of go along with, but it also they always seem to swing for the fences with ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in this case, it looked actually really good, at least as far as the trailers were concerned, and it looked like I'd really enjoy it, so I was extremely down to watch it, and I quite enjoyed it.
Nice.
Right.
So, AJ, what did you think?
So I originally came to this movie ultimately because of Reese, kind of like everyone else here. Way back when it was being marketed, I did see some trailers and have some interest in, but for whatever reason, it dropped off my radar while it was actually showing until it did release on Blu-ray. And when it was on the shelves, I saw it again and had some interest in it and went to Reese for advice on whether he thought it would be good for a blind buy for me, which is not really something I do, but I made an exception here in this case because of Reese's advice. And I do really like Jude Law. I do like most of Charlie Hunnam's stuff, and I do like most of Guy Ritchie's stuff. So yeah, I bought it on Blu-ray and overall enjoyed it. So glad I did. Thanks, Reese.
Cool.
David, that was a dumb joke, and you know it.
So for me, I saw this for the first time with my now wife, Amber, and she is notoriously pretty critical on movies and doesn't enjoy a lot in terms of big, bombastic, blockbustery entertainment. So I knew that, like, it was a risky proposition. Hey, come see King Arthur, Legend of the Sword with me. And she's like, what's the Rotten Tomatoes? And I'm like, not important. Not important.
Amber would ask that, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Amber's more on the critic side, I feel like, for most movies.
Actually, if I remember, I was like, I think it's pretty good. I haven't checked.
Like
even though I
79? Is that okay?
Yeah. So we watched it, and I was like, I'm always hopeful for movies like this, where they get a lot of bad reviews, but I'm like, this just looks cool. I like Guy Ritchie. Hopefully, it's the one that's actually good, where the critics are wrong, in my opinion. And turns out, when I watched it in the theater for the first time, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And the even bigger surprise was that Amber enjoyed it. And then I told her the scores. I was like, oh yeah, I remember. No, I didn't actually do that.
Wait, Amber actually liked this movie when she saw it?
Yeah, she actually liked it. What? Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
It's almost like it takes quality.
But yeah, and I haven't watched it. I've maybe watched it once since the theaters. So I was curious to see how it held up. I mean, it's only been two to 3 years since it came out. Yeah, I was curious to see if I still liked it, or if my opinion had changed. So that was my history going into this. Anyway, now we are going to talk about the story, and this time I'm going to hand the the story reading reins, or the baton, over to Irina here.
I'm the understudy. This is my debut.
You're the
understudy.
Reese broke his vocal larynx, so you actually have to step in.
No, there's not a high bar here, if you've heard any of the previous episodes.
Mordred, an iron-fisted warlock, and his armies lay siege to Camelot, seeking to establish the dominance of mages over humankind, much like Magneto, you might say. Uther Pendragon, king of the Britons, infiltrates Mordred's lair and beheads him, saving Camelot. Uther's treacherous younger brother, Vortigern, that's such a dumb name.
Hey, but that's
that's my
actually,
middle name, okay?
It's in Arthurian legend,
It
though.
is.
Haven't you heard
That
Noah
doesn't mean it
Vortigern
isn't
Payne?
dumb.
No, it's Vertigern.
If they had just taken out the R,
Yeah,
Vortigern,
Vortigern.
sounds so much cooler.
Or Vortigern.
Or just
He's all
Vortigern.
happy.
Whatever. Vort. Who covets the throne, Vortigern does, orchestrates a coup and sacrifices his wife Elsa,
Like the one from Frozen.
Frozen. She's just animated in there.
Yeah.
To moat hags to become a demon knight who kills Uther's wife Igraine and slays Uther in combat. The only survivor is Uther's son Arthur, Took a lot of thinking there to name him. Who drifts away in a boat and ends up in Londinium, where he is found and raised by prostitutes.
It is funny. We got Elsa, Vortigern, Mordred, Igraine, Arthur. But maybe that's just is such a cool name. It just has stood the test of time.
It was
I don't know.
Uther's way of saying, I don't want people going through this problem ever again.
Yeah.
My freaking parents named me Uther. I hate them. My name is God. I'm gonna name my child something cool. Arthur.
Or maybe they're the weird people that had a like maybe his name was super weird at the time. Like it's like Northwest today, where it's like 700 years later.
What a dumb
Northwest, what a legend.
So legend.
Wait, so do you think if in this they do a spin-off where it's like Christmas time, can we have like an Arthur Christmas special? Can we do something like that?
No,
what do you think?
I don't want to watch that movie.
Yeah,
No.
I watched it once and that's enough.
No, that was enough. Yeah. So talk about a great opening to this movie. I love just it's kind of a cold open where you're panning across this dark misty plain and you see soldiers coming up towards the camera, and then suddenly a giant elephant's foot just comes down, and it's just this is the type of movie we're getting. It's
giant
and then,
elephants. Okay.
And even after that initial kind of intro, it comes in with that awesome music, which is honestly one of the very best parts of the entire movie.
This soundtrack.
Daniel Pemberton.
Man, what a rock star.
He will come up multiple times in this episode, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Doesn't he he does another movie that also is pretty good. Oh, actually, I just recently realized he does the music for Into the Spider-Verse as well.
Yep,
He
which
does?
was also good.
Yeah, and I really quite enjoyed the theme for that.
That was
too.
awesome.
He honestly, something about him strikes me in a way that he could be the next kind of Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying he will ever be as big as Hans Zimmer, but
Brings
he plays
a unique spin on otherwise like orchestrated music. It's
and he
it's
plays around
still
with things that
orchestrated,
other
yeah.
composers don't seem to. So, but we'll touch on that more later. But yeah, I love this opening. It's my ideal type of opening as a lover of darker, more realistic fantasy. It really hit the right pleasure centers.
It was another one of those movies where it comes off really hard, really fast.
Yeah.
You're caught in the
Just
middle
like
of an
me.
action. Oh, Noah.
Oh, sorry, wait, what?
Wow. Edit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you can edit that one.
We'll see.
so-
This is awesome. That's all.
I was having this internal debate while I was watching this movie, and I know they went for a totally different direction with King Arthur in this.
Right.
Charlie Hunnam's King Arthur.
Or
He's not
Macklemore.
like your typical King Arthur. I feel like they gave us Eric Bana's Uther as like, oh, this is kind of like what a King Arthur would be.
I thought
That
he was.
that like honorable, noble, lion-hearted
Yeah.
kind of.
he was a perfect looking
Yeah.
King
I was
Arthur.
wondering if that was the director being like, hey, I know what King Arthur should be. Here's a little taste of that, but I'm going to take this in a different direction.
Oh, he definitely
Right.
did.
Yeah, 'cause, Uther was so cool, and in
was.
such a small moment here. And I'm talking about when Uther single-handedly takes down Mordred. Yeah, atop that elephant, and lays waste to all those magic users.
They give you a taste of Excalibur going through the flames when he's on the elephant.
And his
ship.
eyes are glowing blue, and it just looks so cool.
Yes.
You know, they kind of do that same thing that they did with the reboot of Star Trek with Chris Hemsworth as Captain Kirk's dad,
Oh, yeah.
where he's in there for about 3 minutes, and already you're feeling sad for him by the end of it. And
That's
you're like,
true.
Man, like
It takes... It's honestly cool when filmmakers can really make you care about a character who's only on screen for maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I actually felt more for Eric Bana's Uther than I did Chris Hemsworth in that movie.
yeah, that's fair,
Eric Bana
honestly.
has a
But
lot of weight.
it's a good
That line-
counterpoint, like another not a counterpoint, but
That line to
the same.
Vortigern, where he's like, hold the crown and hold it steady. Like, he's already onto him.
Stop being a little.
Eric Bana in general was actually a really good actor. I mean, just disregard the old Hulk movie.
Yeah,
everything else he's really good in.
Revisit that movie though, and even Eric Bana is good in that. It might not be a good movie, but he commits to it.
All right, fair
I think
enough.
he's a good actor. He's just not as relevant these days, I guess.
I honestly would love to see a spin-off of like a prequel with him playing Uther and just seeing how he got the sword, because he
That'd
did
be cool.
he did a great job in this. I loved it.
Do y'all have anything else to say about the opening to this movie?
I'm going to say a little shout out to the special effects team, because I loved the concept of magic in this scenario, where it's used as sort of artillery, but in a unique way, where it's this burning ball of fire, but almost like you can tell there's this force being exercised to keep it in this powerful little ball of energy.
Yeah.
And I think that it was... Usually that's hard to do in a more realistic way.
Yeah, you're right.
Actually,
sorry, go ahead.
A good way to say this is that somehow they conveyed the taboo nature of magic in that time.
Yeah.
Or in this world that somehow you can't really do in anything else. Everything else, it's like, oh, magic, good thing.
Yeah.
But in this, it seemed like, man, he's like messing with some bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, there isn't the sparkly magical effect of it. It's more of a manipulation of physics and the environment. So I think that's a really cool concept.
Well, it's the different kind of magic structure, which we've talked about before, but compared to, say, Warcraft, where they're just like, oh, look at me, I'm just going to be full and colorful and I can just do all sorts of magic. Yeah. And then this one, it feels way more powerful and there's a lot more weight to it, you know?
Oh,
Yeah, there is. It's weird. It's only for a moment, but
yeah.
You bring up a good point, though. The magic is very well integrated into this world as something it's special, but it's nothing new. It's like, and it's just another siege weapon or artillery weapon, as you said. We're seeing it alongside the arrows and the massive beasts, and I
would say that in a way, it's almost like Lord of the Rings in the fact that you don't realize that there's almost magic in it when you're thinking about the movie itself.
Because it's so naturally done.
It's perfectly integrated, and it's almost secondary to the main power of the actual character.
It's funny you bring up Lord of the Rings, because when Guy Ritchie was actually pitching this movie to Charlie Hunnam, he was saying, I want this to be a combination of The Lord of the Rings mixed with his own film, Snatch. Oh. So
I haven't seen Snatch, so I wouldn't really know.
So Guy Ritchie, he does gangsterish movies.
I could really see that in this already.
Yeah, he likes just people that are good at doing deals, and he's very like crime focused as well. So
and a little bit cheeky.
Yeah,
definitely see that as a theme in this movie.
Yeah, and the way he plays with dialogue is very unique.
What, Steve? Fat Steve? Steve from down the road. What, Steve? Get your story straight.
Yeah.
I don't know any Steves, you know. Only Steve I know lives on the bridge.
All right, jumping into the next portion of this story. Arthur grows into a skilled fighter and man of the streets. Arthur and his friends confront a group of Vikings who had mistreated one of the prostitutes, forcing them to pay her restitution. Afterwards, the brothel is raided by the Blacklegs, Vortigern's minions, and Arthur... Blacklegs are Vortigern's minions, by the way, which I did not know.
Black feet.
They never really say that.
And Arthur learns that the Vikings were under the king's protection. Uh-oh. Arthur tries to escape the city, but is caught and put on a ship with hundreds of other men. The Blacklegs have been forcing all men of Arthur's age to try to pull a sword that has appeared near the castle from the surrounding stone. Arthur is able to remove the sword, but is quickly overwhelmed by its power and passes out. Vortigern meets with him in the dungeon, revealing his true lineage.
Ooh, we're getting into the good stuff.
You think they thought about Voldemort and were like, hey, what's good? Voldemort's a good villain, but we can't do that. Let's change it a little bit. Vortigern.
Vortigern is actually taken from Arthurian legend.
Oh, no, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was memeing, Reese. Why'd you have to ruin it?
Oh, sorry.
Meme.
Now, I like this movie, not to reveal my hand too early, but I do think it has some issues. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, the Guy Ritchie-ishness of this.
Yeah.
I think the montage of him growing up is really good. Like, with the score and everything. I love how it gives you a lot of information about King Arthur, or not King Arthur, or I should just say Arthur, in a short amount of time. And it's compelling, and it's, I don't know, it's just invigorating in the right way.
It's the perfect way to do a montage. Yeah.
It's kind of there's this sort of suppressed rage about him where he keeps seeing the women who take care of him being mistreated, but he's not strong enough to fend off who's attacking them. So kind of just building up that idea of one day I'm going to be the bigger man, you know?
Yeah. It's just such a good way to condense a lot of story into a little, to get you to where the movie needs to start.
And even a lot of character depth, too.
Yes. Like, you understand that, okay, one of the things Guy Ritchie says is this is not the King Arthur you know. He's more open to crime, I guess, and getting ahead. He's kind of a street rat. He is good at wheeling and dealing, and it establishes that very well, but it's for a good cause, so he's almost, as some people have said already, kind of a Robin Hood. I don't know if we said that on the podcast.
I told
We
you
haven't,
that.
but-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, this could work as a Robin Hood movie, too, if you change it up just slightly.
There is a lot with the Arthurian stuff that kind of feels the same, and I wonder why, because it kind of all came from English lore.
Honestly, though, that now that I'm thinking about it, Guy Ritchie, as much as I like this movie, he might have been more appropriate to direct a Robin Hood movie.
Yeah.
Can I say, though, that going into this, I didn't realize that he was adapting King Arthur into his style. There's a lot of times where directors want to do a movie and they're like, I'm just going to do it in my unique style. It's not going to be what you think. And then I feel like normally it bombs, but Guy Ritchie found a way to do it where I was like, this is it. This is okay. I can get on board with this.
Yeah.
I think at this point, for whatever reason, Robin Hood has kind of almost a negative connotation just because of all the previous movies that have come.
I mean, King Arthur does too.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's not as, people don't do as many King Arthur movies. There are like 1,000.
Be careful what you
Robin
say
Hood
there.
But that said, some of the Robin Hoods have been successful.
There are a lot of King Arthur stories out there.
Okay,
It's just
okay,
they're all very spaced out. I think
and you got they're on TV too.
Yeah,
Like
it's,
what was that show, Merlin?
Oh, that's right.
There are a
yeah.
couple Merlin shows, and I don't know. It's just a common story that's been brought up several times. I think this is one of the more unique interpretations of the story, because it's not a bad one to take up in film, because there are a lot of Arthurian legends and plenty of lore to go into, but these were also told to one another, not written down directly by any single person. Later, they were adapted by a French writer and developed into something a little more concrete, but there are several different interpretations of Arthur, the way certain events are told. Like, everyone has a little bit of a different narration of it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to learn that a little bit going into the next movie too, aren't we? It's a little bit different than this
Which
one.
technically you
bit.
guys will hear before this one, so I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I do think it is a good idea to have a fresh take on old kind of movie. You know, I think everyone kind of does more of the same whenever they think of the Arthurian movies. So this was his way of kind of reinvigorating the series, making it new while
Right.
still telling
Yeah.
the same story.
I'm about to seesaw towards the other side of what I don't like about Guy Ritchie, and it's his insistence on intercutting dialogue in different time periods. Like, they're telling a story, and then it cuts to the future or cuts to the past. Like, I find that, while interesting, I find it very annoying sometimes, and I wish it would just. There's times in this movie where I wish it would just tell the story in the proper sequence.
Like a linear
Yeah.
fashion.
Well, yeah, there's times to do what he likes to do, which is intercut dialogue and show the result at the end and how it all came together. But there's other times where I'm just like, okay, just tell me the story,
Yeah,
because
I
you're
kinda-
making it more confusing than it is.
Yeah.
I kind of get that. I also think that that's something that upon repeat viewings is worse than when you're viewing it the first time.
Well, I actually felt this in the theater as well.
Really?
It's specifically, and there's a few times. I want to say it happens 3 times in the movie.
Is there a part that sticks out to you?
Yeah, there's 3. So
I-
the first one happens here. I'm going to say it real quick.
Yeah.
It's the part where that general, the guy, I don't know if it's a general, but he's
The black legs person or black
yeah,
dude or whatever.
he barges into
The brothel.
and then he starts to question or interrogate Arthur. And that whole sequence, when I watched it again, I understood it more, but it is it's like making something simple much more confusing.
And I'm just gonna go ahead and step in here and say
Okay.
I completely disagree.
Okay.
I'm with you, David.
I got into that point. That's where I was like, oh, this is a unique movie, and it was very different. And I rewatching it, I really liked it. It was like, I don't know, heist style.
It seemed style over substance to me. I wanted the information, but you were giving it to me in puzzle pieces that I had to put together. Yeah,
so I understand that. I didn't really have a problem with it because I thought it did still have the substance of the story, but it also added a unique style to the way of interrogation, where when you're normally doing an interrogation scene, like, oh, this is just another interrogation scene. Oh, he's going to ask this pressing matter. Mm-hmm. Oh, great. Yeah. Oh, now the tension's rising. He got the answer. Wow. But this way it was giving you a little bit of action
comical.
while...
Yes, it's comical.
While going with the kind of trend of something that normally would be kind of boring.
Here's the thing, though. Here's my only issue with it. I'm trying to get to know this Arthur character. I feel like I don't know him as well because of this switching in the editing. If I had seen the scenario play out in its proper sequence, I would better be able to understand how Arthur ticks and how he got to that end result.
Rather than just snippets of the events.
Yeah, instead of being at the end and then working backwards.
Okay, I see what you're saying, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get you.
Particularly for this scene, I understand what you guys like about it, and it does make sense. It does explain part of his character because you see this consistency with how he tells stories as lying by omission of certain facts. Mm-hmm. And so he's not necessarily lying, but he's just keeping some details from you to avoid getting in trouble directly.
Yeah.
However, I will say that scene is agitating because it's constantly jumping back and forth really quickly.
I had to put on subtitles.
So that's all I'm saying. I think I like the concept. I just think it's a little too hastily done. There might have been a better way to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it did add a lot to it, but I see exactly what you mean. It almost is like you're caught in the middle. You get either style, like you said, or substance. And I think he did find a good middle ground, but it did lose a little bit of substance.
So I'm still gonna disagree, but I want to say though that I can agree with you a little more with the one that comes later, where he's saying like, you're gonna say this, and I actually really like that scene, but the way it's put together is such
a little weird
that you're thinking, wait, but it's not going to happen this way if you're going to
because you're telling him what he's going to say.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of slightly skewed logic, but I still quite enjoy that scene. Just it's really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the way that they did it, whether it agitates certain people or not, is just a really fun way to do it.
And it fit with the concept of the movie as a whole.
Yeah, and the tone is great for it. So I really appreciate it.
All right. So, actually we were talking a lot about that, but we didn't go over the part where he first discovers he is Uther's son.
Oh, yeah.
Which is pretty significant. I think we should talk about that.
How did we miss that? I will say that because of this editing, I had no positive or negative feelings towards Arthur as a character at all.
Yeah.
I think when he does pull the sword from stone, I mean, I kind of got a sense of who his character was, but the emotions that the movie was wanting you to feel for him pulling the sword from stone were not there.
Okay, I want to say something real quick on that. I would say that it almost gave me like, not Rocky necessarily feel, but it's almost like an underdog thing. It's not necessarily that he's a good person, but you see when he's growing up as a kid that he sees the wrongs and he automatically wants to right those justices, but he can't do it. But he has that integrity growing up. But because of where he grew up, he inherently is looked down upon, I think, and he has to have sort of a chip on his shoulder. But when he gets to that, I felt like I felt the moment. Like it felt like somebody who was finally coming into himself.
The thing is, the music starts to build up. The score's great. He pulls it. I feel a slight bit of something, but if I had just had a little more time to, really
see him right some wrongs or something.
Yeah, lead up to that moment more, which actually I heard this movie the original cut of it was supposed to be 3.5 hours long.
Dang.
I'm sorry,
would've
but
loved
I
that.
would watch it. Yeah.
I would love that.
So maybe there's a lot more that like goes into that and like leads up to this point. But
Right.
I honestly, there are times in this movie where I feel emotions later on, for sure. But at this point, I am not down with this version of Arthur. I like that it's a different take, but at this point, okay, cool. He pushed his way to the front of the line because he's so edgy, and I don't got time. I don't got time for this. I'm just gonna pull the sword and get out of here.
I think
Like-
the thing that's missing from this scenario is some sort of relationship between him and Vortigern, because the only thing he has really is a vague flashback of his parents being killed, I guess, but he's too young to actually feel much animosity towards that.
Yeah.
They
So
do
I think
replay
there
it a
needs
lot.
to be a current kind of interaction with Vortigern here before he finds out that this kid is Arthur.
You're right. That's a
if,
good point.
If perhaps Vortigern had been kind of closer at the beginning somehow when he was a kid and grew up kind of knowing Vortigern, and then had sort of a betrayal type thing, that would have made it pretty cool as sort of a motive for him to dislike Vortigern
Yeah.
more.
So what do y'all think about Jude Law as Vortigern?
I was thinking about stepping in there to
Sorry.
bring up that exact
It's
point.
time for you
so,
to
He makes
step
a good. He makes a good villain. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does.
He is
one of the
so
few.
he actually, I think he's my favorite performance in this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I do like Charlie Hunnam. Don't get me wrong.
Did you like
Right.
Digimon?
But I think
I was never a big
yeah,
fan.
he's fine.
I'm more of a Pokemon guy.
Good one. But I like Jude Law. There's not a movie where he never looks like he's not having fun.
Yeah.
It's his British voice that does it. He just has that. Ah, yes, I'm a posh, sophisticated British man.
I'm a British
Well,
man.
the thing is,
Ah.
when it came to him on screen being a villain, I got vibes of Gladiator with what's his name, Joaquin Phoenix. Is that no? It was that right?
Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix.
No, the villain from Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Joaquin.
Yeah,
It
you're
was
right.
Joaquin.
You're
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
I got vibes of that where it's this guy who wants to be in powder so bad, and he doesn't actually have the weight. He just wants it.
It
And
is very similar. You're
yeah,
right.
and when he's in this, he feels like a kid just throwing a tantrum all the time. And he's pounding. I want to be the big guy in charge, but he's so good at
Yeah,
it.
he's
don't know,
he's the dejected brother that wants what Uther had, but without the responsibility.
So
I think
One-
I'm gonna have to disagree here. I don't really like him in this role. I really like Jude Law in general. I think he's a good actor. I don't think his character is very well drawn out. I think they could have pushed some things more.
It's a little cookie cutter.
See, I don't find him very threatening. I think he's
that-
obviously
I agree.
bad, but I just don't see him as very powerful.
You're right. It is kind of a one-note performance. I don't know. When I see him, I'm just like, yeah.
I like the casting choice.
He sells it.
Don't get me wrong. I like the casting choice. But I think if given a little more reign to work
He doesn't
to
have.
work on, I guess, a little more nuances with the character, I think it could have been so much better.
Yeah, I guess
think,
I'm also sorry. I guess
you're
I'm also impressed. Well, like, what movie have you seen Jude Law as a villain in?
Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, but that's after
But
this.
that's the only other one.
Painkillers or something with Channing Tatum. Was he the villain in that, or was he the good guy? I know he was. The
I've
good
not
guy.
seen that
It-
movie.
Doesn't matter.
It was
Regardless.
it was a good movie.
I think he does a good job for what it is, but I will agree he doesn't have enough weight. He needs to be a little more menacing.
Yeah.
You know?
They do set up certain scenes for him to be menacing, where he's doing the fire scene, or when he's in the when he kills his wife or in his daughter. Those scenes.
See,
I
those
actually
are the
think-
most poignant.
I actually think the scene that is menacing, or the most menacing, is when he comes face to face with Arthur and he slits someone's throat. I don't know who it is. It's this girl in front of him, and says that if you don't go out there and let me behead you in front of everyone, they're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like this. It's doesn't seem like he has all that power. He's just using the crowd, or
Yes.
he's using his throne or the whatever to do it, but he himself doesn't seem very threatening.
Well,
And
yeah.
if you put him next to somebody, the girl with the dragon tattoo, Stellan Skarsgård as a villain.
Oh, yeah. He's much
he
better.
barely does anything, and he's got you like.
But the thing is, this is a much different type of movie.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, I put an extreme example to make
you
a
know
point
what it
about the
is?
fact that if he were more menacing, it would be better.
I think some of the greatest
Obviously.
villains out there have this way of portraying the crazy eyes. You know, there's something in the eyes where
Stellan
it's just
Skarsgård does that.
you're
for
like, this
sure.
person
Or-
is deranged and I'm in danger.
You know what that made me think of? Actually, I was thinking of, and this ties perfectly into it. Was in Snow White and the Huntsman, Charlize Theron, when she is, showing that guy that she's killing his son by like, I don't know, slowing down his heart or
Yeah.
something. That's what I thought about when in this movie Jude Law killed the prostitute or whatever. That's kind of vibe I got, but he didn't have the crazy eyes. He didn't sell it as much.
Let's quickly talk about how Arthur figures out that he is the son of Uther, and how inconsequential that seemed to me. Like he denies it, but then it's never really brought up again.
I'm just a prostitute's bastard.
I guess they probably should have made it. They should have added more to the story in this way, as him kind of coming into his acceptance of him realizing things about his father, and then him kind of taking on the role like I need to be more like my father. Kind of, I'm accepting it. I'm gonna be that kind of guy.
I'll say one thing that I like that they did is they gave Arthur a weakness where he was almost cowering, like he wanted to get away. Like he was like, "You'll never see me again. I'll get out of here. You don't even worry about it. I'll be out."
Yeah.
And that was kind of nice to see because it gave me Arthur's not a perfect action hero character at the beginning of this movie. He's kind of a coward in a way.
Kind of take the easy way out.
Yeah.
Well, to tie in with that as well, I think that one of my favorite things they did that kind of humbles him as well as add comedic effect in a way is when he fully gets both hands on the sword. That's where he really gets the strength from Excalibur, and you see the blue eyes and everything starts getting crazy. And then he loses all control because it's just way too much power and he can't quite hone in on it and he passes out.
Yeah, I like that
Both
too.
times there's two times where they do the comedic effect with that, but it really does show, hey, this thing's a lot of power and you can't just go in like, oh, I'm just going to go kill people with this.
It reminded me of that scene in Avengers Infinity War when Bruce Banner's trying to get the Hulk to come out, and the Hulk comes out for one split second, and then Bruce Banner comes back too, and then he just like faints. You remember that?
Yep. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so next part.
Booty,
Meanwhile, a mage identifying herself as an acolyte of Merlin presents herself to Uther's former general, Sir Bedivere. At Arthur's planned execution, the mage uses her magic to stage a diversion, while Bedivere's men rescue Arthur. Taken to Bedivere's hideout, Arthur initially refuses to help them. The mage persuades Bedivere to take Arthur to a realm called the Darklands, where he's given a vision of how Uther sacrificed himself to save Arthur and entomb the sword in the stone. Arthur learns Vortigern was responsible for persuading Mordred to rebel against humanity, and he returns determined to destroy Vortigern.
Yes.
Vortigern. Vortigern.
Wow, when you
So we have-
vertical plane and
So we have another sequence where Guy Ritchie decides to intercut Bedivere describing the Darklands to Arthur, and then scenes of Arthur dealing with the hostilities of the Darklands. And I think this sequence is cool, but I also don't like that it cuts back and forth to these things
That is
again.
one of the problems.
So
yeah.
I failed to look this up. I wanted to, but I forgot. I think that the Darklands are supposed to be Avalon.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's what that's supposed to represent.
And what is Avalon?
So Avalon is beyond the lake where the Lady of the Lake resides, and this is kind of a land that's between the living and the dead, or the lake is separating the living from the dead. And it was kind of this mysterious island where, kind of supernatural things go. At some point later, Arthur is taken there because of a severe wound. Not in this film, but
In, like,
in lore, and that's where he was healed. But I think that's what the Darklands
And
are.
that's where all the
supposed to be.
magic kind of is, and you only.
I
get
wish
a
I had
taste
looked
of
it up
in
because
here.
I'm not 100%
Magic.
sure.
Okay, so also we get our introduction to the mage that doesn't have a name.
Who
Was
do you
supposed
think it's
to,
gonna be?
like? She's the worst part of this movie.
Guess who
I'm
it
sorry.
is? It's Frisbee.
Frisbee.
What's her name?
You throw her away, but she keeps coming back.
Yeah.
That's called a boomerang.
I'm going to say these King Arthur movies, or at least the two ones we've covered, seem to have trouble with finding compelling female lead characters.
Yeah.
Because
What are you talking about?
I feel like every time she opened her mouth, it was just like, I don't know. I don't think it's her first language, and I just don't think she's comfortable acting alongside everyone else.
I will say she is the weakest part of the cast, but there are times where it's almost 50-50 for me. I either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
It's like her the way she speaks is almost flat, monotone, and doesn't sell the weight of what's happening. But certain scenes, that tone works, and others it doesn't.
Fine.
For me, this is a Guy Ritchie movie. Guy Ritchie thrives in dialogue, and she was not confident in delivery.
There was
of
no
that
emotion
dialogue.
in her dialogue
Yeah.
at
I
all.
didn't-
Literally none.
Well, the point about magic users was probably that they're not supposed to have emotion, really.
I don't know, maybe, but the thing is, it's almost the same tone no matter what the situation is, which is why I think it's 50-50.
Well, think about it from this standpoint. So she's one of those whatever druid people with magic. that's
She's
out
working
there.
with Merlin, yeah.
Now the other magic users out there are Merlin, who actually is very level-headed and he doesn't really do anything crazy. But the other one's Mordred, and then I guess there's Morgana, who are both very emotionally driven characters as far as the old stories go, and they kind of misuse magic a little
Meanwhile,
bit.
we get Frisbee.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we get a frisbee.
I'll just say I wasn't impressed by her.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't mind her, but
Bedivere I did like, though, and that's Jimon Hansu, who's always reliable in that kind of stern, wise fighter type role.
but a cookie in the center.
Yeah, I guess a softie, you mean?
Yeah, I like cookies though.
Okay, cookies.
I was thinking about cookies. Okay.
So this is also the time when we get that flashback where Arthur grasps the sword and he's been seeing the flashback of when his father died and his mother and father were killed.
Yeah.
And this finally reveals that his father died and threw the sword into his own back and became the stone in which the sword was.
Which is actually really cool.
It is very cool.
I'm gonna say
I think it's.
I'm not
really
gonna try to
cool.
cuss that much on this, but that was badass. Like
Yeah,
that
that
was
was
so
awesome.
cool.
I think that's the coolest change they made to from the Arthurian legend. That I think it improves. Just it explains why no one else is able to draw the sword from the stone, because it's
So-
literally
It goes from
dad's back.
Yeah.
it goes from like Merlin going magic is hard.
This is
You can't take this out unless you're worthy.
Worthiness.
This is something.
Mjolnir too.
This is something where throughout all the tellings, the visual tellings of King Arthur, they all do this where they combine two swords into one.
Yeah.
Because in the stories, technically Arthur has two swords. One of them is the one he pulls out of the stone, which means he is king, but Excalibur
The
is
one
separate.
that
She-
the lady in the
Yeah,
lake throws
the
out.
lady,
dumb.
the lady in the lake gives it to him.
Yeah.
And so that one is imbued with special powers.
This.
So the sword
It's okay.
itself means that he will have glory and stuff like that.
It's
But-
more of like a sign.
But the more important part is the scabbard, and as long as he wears the scabbard, he cannot die of his own wounds.
You killing me?
That's what it is.
I said you killing me. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, I was
Literally
thinking
came-
in my
You're
mind,
killing
how
me,
can I was thinking, how can I roast David for
Okay.
just saying that?
Also, by the way, I did a
I
little.
don't know.
I did a little quick research here, and it's not definitive, but I take it back. I do not think the Darklands are Avalon. Avalon is a little more neutral territory.
Womp womp.
Darklands are actually full of beasts and things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did see a lot of beasts. in
Yeah,
that.
it's their tunnels and caverns.
Also, can I say something? I find it kind of funny that the fantastical beasts in this are just larger animals that we already know about.
Well,
Like, there's no-
you do see like a tree thing.
I think that was him just tripping.
No, I think.
Oh no, that
I think
was,
it actually.
no,
exists.
that was in the tripping session.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he might have been tripping, but I think a lot of it existed.
Oh, like
too.
it kind of connects.
Yeah.
Sort of
No,
through this more
Oh, he was
parallel.
tripping.
I think
I-
he was tripping
Okay,
balls.
okay. Here's what I think. I think he was tripping, but the way he was tripping was such that he saw that this is actually what it looks like.
I wish
You know what I mean?
I wish their portrayal of the Darklands took a page out of the Snow White and the Huntsman book. You know, with the forest.
There are
Kinda,
a lot of
if it were-
connections
Yeah.
with
There,
those.
it's a little like that, but if they pushed that a little more fanciful,
I think it's because they were trying to make
Direction.
this show or movie more realistic with the magic. And I think that's why it ties in more naturally, because they're like, okay,
Yeah.
magic actually is more like real life. It's just bigger, you know, like
Yeah.
that's what it was.
I'm just saying I would have liked a dragon at the end sequence
yeah.
instead
That
of
would've-
a
that would've been
giant
good. Think about
snake.
it.
Oh come on!
Think about
that's
it this way.
awesome.
What if they thought about that and all these creatures he's seeing are, kind of reflections of what we know in our world, except a little bigger. But what if, that's just his city life mindset, and once he has that like magic stuff or whatever, the venom or whatever it is, he is able to now see that the world is actually a
I
lot
don't
more
think we touched
fantastical
on the
than
venom
maybe.
yet, though.
you
And
know.
also, just one
we'll
little
get
thing
there. We're not
before
there
we
yet.
before we skip forward in the Badlands area. Shout out
Darklands.
Badlands,
the Badlands,
the Darklands.
Yeah.
Shadowlands.
We get the ROUSs out there. Shout out to the. I honestly think that they were throwing sort of like a homage to Princess and the Bride. Those giant rats.
The Princess Bride.
Princess and the Bride. I think I slurred it together, maybe.
The
but-
Princess Bride.
And the
It's
Bride.
your Princess Bride,
Princess
right?
and the Bride.
It's your Princess Bride. Anyway, I loved that movie and the
Obviously.
ROUSs, and he was fighting them off in this movie, and it
Yeah.
reminded me a lot of it. Okay, that's it.
Thank you for that astute observation.
Hi, I'm David.
So something that I was thinking was missing about the whole Darklands situation is I wish it felt kind of like a throwaway moment where it's just trying to get a point across. Oh yeah, Arthur is learning some new stuff and becoming a better fighter, but it happens within a matter of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be more of a crucible for him, and I wish that was emphasized more. Kind of the isolation and constantly trying to fight his way through this land where it's incredibly oppressive. But I just don't see that. I feel like it was sort of brushed through too quickly, and then just so that he can be returned to the plot with better powers and better wielding of
Well, it's
the
supposed to
sword.
overcome the problems he was going through, and they
Yeah.
didn't quite show that very well.
I agree. I think what it was is he was probably constrained by the fact that he had to make this movie within a certain amount of time. He was probably
Yeah.
thinking, what if this movie isn't,
So Noah, would
good
you
enough?
have
What if
wanted
it doesn't
this,
make enough movies?
this film put
3.
into 3 parts?
7,
7 parts.
99 parts.
20 million.
20 millions.
All right. So after the Darklands and learning of his father's demise, he, with his friends and Bedivere's men, Arthur, stages a series of ambushes against Vortigern, culminating in an assassination attempt in Londinium. The rebels sense a trap but attack anyway, because that's a good idea. Fleeing to a fighter's school run by Arthur's mentor, George, where they are overrun by the Blacklegs. Seeing the mage held at knife point, Arthur unleashes Excalibur's potential, single-handedly killing all of the soldiers and allowing most of the rebels to escape the city. However, in the ensuing chaos, Arthur's close friend, Backlack, is wounded and murdered by Vortigern in front of Arthur and Backlack's son later that night.
So, what did y'all think of all that?
I like.
You like the murder of Backlack and his son?
Yeah.
They did it well, though.
the
to
son
be honest.
survives.
I also liked his friend playing Backlack. I think he did actually a really good job. It was fun.
It was sad. I mean, they did a good job, but it was sad.
I don't know. I'm just a clean man. Do whatever you want. I don't care.
We
That was
also get a lot
racist.
more of that interspliced editing of present and then future, present, future, which I don't care for. Sorry.
I don't mind it that much.
I know that. I also like Aidan Gillen, who plays, why am I blanking on his name, but the Arrow guy.
Oh, the guy who plays Littlefinger in Game of Thrones?
Bill.
Yes.
It's Bill, the fat Bill or whatever. What's his name?
I don't know.
It's Bill.
I should have had it.
Bootstrap Bill.
I should have had it written down. I love that time though when he just decides to shoot. What's his name?
Yeah.
He was going to kill the king, and then
The king wasn't there. He
wasn't there as a decoy.
As a decoy, but he saw another important figure, right hand man to the king almost, and took him out. I thought that was a good sequence.
yeah.
That could have easily been Nottingham.
Then we have that whole the street chase in Londinium. Yep. Daniel Pemberton's. Daniel Pemberton's score in full effect. I honestly think that score really elevates this movie. And
Oh,
you
it
said
really
that.
does.
I
All
feel like this
of
would-
the times they bring it out.
Yeah, this movie would be pretty generic without it. I feel like
Yeah.
it just gives this movie an energy that other movies don't have.
Oh, yeah.
and
A score can really affect a movie.
It reinforces the idea that Guy Ritchie is trying to go for something that's completely different from what has been seen before. And having a film score that unique really helps.
Yeah. We also get to see King Arthur finally, or not King, I keep saying King Arthur, we get to see Arthur finally realize the full potential of Excalibur in that courtyard scene. What did y'all think about this?
I liked that, actually. I thought it was fun.
So, any time he brings out Excalibur, it's, I love it, even with how weird it is.
How anime it is.
Yeah, it very much is.
I absolutely love it. I guess you're correct in saying it's kind of anime, but
Yeah.
I love this aspect
kinda
of just
anime.
It's just over the
Yeah.
top. Like, this is such a... it's
Yeah.
like the Mjolnir of swords.
oh yeah,
Where it's just... anything coming even close to it is just going to be completely blown away.
dude.
yeah.
But I've always loved the idea of just weapons or just really special ancient weapons with a lot of magical power or just some sort of
Yeah.
The
inherent.
only thing it's missing is that it isn't twice the
greatness.
size of the wielder.
Yeah. It needs to be like just a massive sword that a skinny person wouldn't be able
With
to
a bunch
hold.
of ribbons hanging off the hilt.
Yeah, that
Oh, for the anime style. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get
that
it.
they hoist on their back.
Yeah,
Well, he
yeah.
needs to do twirls and flips while he's killing people too. So
Yeah, and juggle people up in the air, which does kind of happen later.
Dude, I love that. It's so dumb, but I love
you're
it.
such a weeb.
It's not even about the weebness. It's just the willingness to go with something that could be seen cheesy, but is just really fun.
I think my favorite part is all these blackleg people realizing that they're in over their heads almost
crap.
immediately.
Like
So you
our
mean- our intro bit.
yeah.
We were there. We saw. It's like
Oh, I'm
nope.
not getting in on that.
no one is.
No one bit.
Yeah, it's very video gamey, but
Yeah,
I don't think in a negative way.
Dark Souls.
It's definitely. I don't think it's quite in keeping with the style of the movie
Yeah.
that before it, but it's still fun.
Yeah, that's-
and well executed.
That's fair. I think if they kept with the style of the movie before, they would have decided that Excalibur was more of a symbolic thing than a literal power.
Yeah.
Slow mo time.
Yeah.
Kill everybody super fast.
But I still loved it.
All right. Ashamed of his failures, Arthur tries to throw away the sword, but the Lady of the Lake returns it and shows him a vision of England's future under Vortigern's rule. Coming to terms with his responsibility, Arthur reunites with Bedivere. When they return to the rebel hideout, they discover all of their allies dead, Vortigern having found them and delivered an ultimatum. If Arthur does not surrender himself, the captured mage will die. Arthur surrenders himself, but as Vortigern is about to execute his nephew, a giant snake summoned by the mage attacks and devours Vortigern's men. While Bedivere and the others lead an attack on the castle, a desperate Vortigern sacrifices his only daughter and is transformed into the demon knight, confronting Arthur in a separate dimension. Despite his fighting skill, Arthur is beaten and he is about to submit when he witnesses a vision of his father, convincing him to accept the sword and his character as his own. Arthur violently slays Vortigern but blesses him as he dies.
Cool.
that was one of
yeah.
my favorite sequences in the movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fight. I really like that whole Dark Souls vibe.
Well, not
I
before
will-
that too.
I will say I detect a slight cutting of the final 3.5 hour edit of this movie.
Yeah, I
where,
could see that.
Where, Arthur throws away the sword and then gets it back. It seems pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'll
But
say I would have
cool.
liked. I wanted to see a little more turmoil between the throwing of the sword and then getting it back.
Can we talk about how cool the sequence was, though?
Yeah, no, visually cool. And emotionally, yes, it pulls it off. I just wanted to see a little more separation between that sense of loss and the realizing, what you have to do.
I am a king. I have to do this.
Yeah, I do think they probably cut out a lot, which is really sad. I wish we could get a director's cut where we watch it all.
Yeah.
That's never going to happen. unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. Which makes me mad. I hate the world today.
Throw it at us. Throw it at us like the sword. I want to fall down.
do Life of Pets, but anything with more serious
No, there's a Minions 2 coming out this year.
Minions 2? I thought...
Okay, we're not going down a Minions 2
No,
track.
no, no,
I
no.
want to be.
It's not worth
But
talking
let's
about.
just talk about
No.
the stupidity of the world today. Just like that succeeds and makes like hundreds of millions of dollars while quality
The
is
last
like,
Minions-
I hate this. Fantasy sucks.
I actually think that the Minions movie made over $1 billion.
It's ridiculous. Freaking.
You know what? You're going to be running through the woods and you're going to like trip and fall, land in the mud, and you're going to be reaching your hand out of the mud and you're like, Minions? No!
Freaking. Okay, here's
Banana.
the thing. Like, I don't have like a real like problem with Minions on its own. It's a kids movie. I'm down to have kids movies, but the fact that
They're dumb kids movies.
yeah, but the fact that this kind of stuff succeeds when there's stuff that's much better than this.
It's a kids movie, dude. Like when it comes to
Fails?
parents taking their kids to movies, it doesn't matter what the content is.
No, but what bothers me is I'm certain that 90% of people saw that when they looked at the trailer for this movie, saw that it was fantasy and were like, oh, that's not going to be good. I'm not going to watch it.
We don't know that yet. We don't know.
Yeah,
All
we'll
I'm
talk
gonna
about
say
that.
is that if I have kids, I'm not taking it to a Minion movie.
Yeah,
you
good
definitely
for you.
shouldn't.
Anyway,
either.
this I think going back to the movie, I think some of the weak links in this film show up here too. The concepts are cool. I like this scenario, but trying to incorporate this demon knight with an actual real life human character and trying to make that choreography work is a little awkward.
It's a little awkward. Visually, it's cool to see
Yeah.
them facing off, but it would have been a more emotional confrontation if it were Jude Law versus
It's
Arthur.
It's the best and worst part because, yeah, like you said, visually it's really cool. I feel like if it was more like Jude Law had control over this being.
Yeah.
Because one, it doesn't look like Jude Law at all. It's it is, like I said, Dark Souls-esque, double-sided blade, like a scythe.
I did think his double scythe was a bit ridiculous looking.
It was cool though.
It was cool. I wish he just had a sword though, or an axe. Like I don't need this double-edged scythe thing. It's gimmicky in the way that people are gonna hate on me for this, but Darth Maul with his double lightsaber.
Do not like Darth Maul's lightsaber.
Darth Maul's cool. I just think
kill you.
I think
they
the
always
double.
try to bump up the lightsaber.
Yeah, it's like what's cooler than one lightsaber?
Two in one.
Well, I also did like the design of his mask in this though, with Jude Law's. What would you call him? Like some demon lord thing? I don't know.
It looked like a ring wraith mixed with a Dark Souls boss, as you said.
Well,
Dude,
it
it's
looked-
the Lord of Cinder from Dark Souls.
I knew it. I knew it was a Dark
Yeah.
Souls character. It was cool, but at the same time, it's like, oh wait, that's Jude Law. That's the power. Oh, they didn't really tie that in right.
It's basically what intense biker gangs think they look like.
we did pass over
Imagine-
the big. Hey,
I'm sorry, I'm imagining a biker gang of just like ring wraith dressed type people. Just like,
Screaming as they pass by.
one percenters.
the ring.
I would want to see them like barge into a bar.
They're always worried about crossing rivers.
Fool me once,
Way man, magic.
not this time.
We skipped over the whole fight sequence with
The snake.
the snake, and then Arthur taking out all those guys. Where it was like another courtyard. There's a lot of courtyard
No,
fights.
well,
in
No,
this.
it wasn't in the courtyard.
was
it
in
was
the castle.
kind of in a throne room.
Yeah,
type
yeah, it was in
thing.
the throne room.
No, it's outdoors. It's
No.
nighttime, and
No,
he
it's
goes outdoors
indoors.
and he
No.
goes downstairs.
No,
and
you're
he's,
thinking of when he fought the Blackfeet or Black Man or whatever they are. But when he was inside, when the snake first came in, that was inside.
He was inside.
that
then
was
he
inside.
goes. Then he
Well,
goes outside
that's what we're talking
afterwards.
about.
But you know,
Well,
I was talking about both. I was trying
okay.
to lump them together.
but
well,
he was at the castle and he was going out towards the whatever the docks or something.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
Well,
that's why
where
he
his
was
father
outside
died or something.
Yeah.
But that was also one of the best scores in the soundtrack, in my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah.
I was so hooked at that moment. I could not take my eyes off the screen.
yeah.
I think the music is excellent. I
Why
think
didn't
it
they
works well.
keep the snake around for a little longer?
I don't know.
Dude, that's some
It's,
powerful magic.
It's budget issues.
Well,
maybe?
I am actually okay with it being used sparingly because it kind of takes the eye off of Arthur. And if it's just rampaging around everything, you're thinking like, okay, why does Arthur need to be
Why
here?
didn't we bring the
You know?
eagles
Why didn't
in
they just-
from the beginning in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, why don't they just get the snake to kill the dude?
That
like,
snake was kind of the Eagles.
a little bit. Like, yeah, why didn't they get the snake to kill the dude?
I don't know.
Too easy, dude.
Too easy.
Basically, all this mage girl does is send animals in to kill,
Yeah.
and then they die.
And looking like she's having
Hey,
a really
hey,
hard
come on.
time.
She
That is
kills
pretty cool.
animals.
Yeah.
She thinks she's a friend of animals.
So Vortigern dies. Are we happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy.
Yeah.
happy.
Okay. So I thought the fight was really cool and all, but I do think that it needed a little more weight to it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
needed the emotion. It just needed. All I need is Jude Law looking a little more evil than he did before, maybe influenced by dark magic.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need this, as we've said, Dark Souls boss.
Yeah.
I want to see the life leave Jude Law's eyes as he is killed by Arthur.
well, maybe-
I don't.
The thing that is a problem with his character, as we're talking about it, I'm starting to realize is that it's like they didn't pick a lane for me. Mm-hmm. Because I can understand him becoming this demon knight thing, because it's sort of he's kind of a coward,
Yeah.
and so he's hiding behind this helmet. You know, he doesn't necessarily like what he's doing, but he has to do it for the sake of power. And so I get the not wanting to face him off eye to eye. But at the same time, there are other moments in the film where he does things obviously evil in front of Arthur, like slitting the throat of the prostitute. And I want them to pick a lane with his character. Either he's a coward that's evil, or just straight up evil, devious.
Yeah.
That's why I can't
One
feel anything for this scene.
I just wanted to see an actual person
I guess
playing the villain.
One thing that they could have done in this circumstance, they've done this in, I guess, plenty of games and perhaps other movies as well. Actually, I'm sure other movies as well. But they do this thing where they kind of showcase the corruption of a character by having multiple stages of change. So at
Yeah.
first you could have him, maybe his eyes change a little bit, or his gains
Gain
a little
some
bit
muscle
of
weight.
a little bit of muscle weight, gets
Muscle
a little
mass.
taller,
Loses
looks-
his hair more. Oh, sorry, Jude Law, you don't need that.
some sort of thing like that. But they could have definitely stages of him where he kind of loses each time a bit of his humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
they
think
definitely could have conveyed that kind of thing rather than,
they did tie it in when he's having to kill his daughter. I think the first time when he killed his wife, it wasn't as impactful, but he was almost straight up crying when he was killing his daughter. And
He did with his wife too.
He
I
did,
thought
but
that was cool.
I think the daughter part was almost more impactful.
Yeah, yeah.
it was the first
He
time he
sold
did
it.
it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, he killed
oh
the
no,
wife
sorry,
first, his daughter second.
sorry,
yeah.
not the. You're right. But
All right. One small little
Yeah.
paragraph left. In the aftermath, Arthur dissolves Vortigern's pact with the Vikings and begins building a round table where his knighted friends will meet. Blue and the prostitutes arrive. Sounds like a band.
Blue and the prostitute.
hey, let's start. Blue and the prostitutes.
Blue and the prostitutes arrive with the crown of Uther, which Arthur accepts, holding the sword aloft.
You get that iconic lift up of the sword.
Always gotta have it.
Yep, it's good. So I do have a quick question. This movie was intended to have 5 sequels.
Whoa.
Gosh, I would have loved that.
Do you think this movie? Yeah, it was intended as a 6-part franchise.
I'm sorry, that's overambitious for a lot of people.
Okay.
I know.
Here's
wait,
the
wait,
thing.
wait. I'm gonna end my question.
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
Do you think this movie ended on a note that allows it to stand alone as a satisfying experience?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
It is a standalone.
It definitely. Okay, well, here's the thing. They left it in kind of a state where it could be just various episodes. That's the thing about the Arthurian legends.
It allows for multiple different stories.
It allows for so many different stories because there are so many that have been written that where they are all separate.
You always have
stories.
something you can do.
And I would have loved to have seen more.
There's something deeply tragic about this final scene and the fact that there aren't any following ones. And it's because of that round table.
yeah.
When they reveal the
gosh,
round
yeah.
table, that was one of the coolest looking round tables I've ever
know.
seen. I
Definitely.
love the design.
know.
I wanted to see it completed
I know.
so
it's
bad.
Sad. It's sad.
I have this longing, this very very small hope that
It will
one
never
day
happen, sorry.
there will be a cult following and they'll want to do more.
You should abandon that hope.
I know,
Abandon
but I
ye
just
all who
really
enter
want
here.
it.
You'll when you hear the next part of this episode, you will abandon it. I'm sorry.
I freaking hate people.
Yeah. So that wraps up our story. We'll see you guys on the other end where we talk about this franchise, give it our brief reviews, and peace out. All right, welcome back. Let's talk about this movie. Guys, give me your quick reviews. And actually, we got our bowl so that our scores are not adjusted. David's here,
Can we
ready
limit
to...
it to 5 words at least?
No,
At
no,
most, I mean.
This was a good movie.
no. We will give our brief reviews. David, draw our first review.
All right. Well, I grabbed 2. I was bad at this. All right. First one is unnamed. Someone own up to their 8.5.
That's me.
Good job. Good job.
Wow.
No name.
My bad. I really wasn't thinking about my name. I just put in the score, but I wasn't going to change. Yeah, I absolutely love movies like this.
Yep.
You know, especially since it actually took itself seriously, even though there were some jokes in there. I really loved the whole vibe of it. Sure, it's not accurate to how the books were, how it was originally written, but I really loved the score. I really loved the acting. I really loved the setting, and it's just a all-out enjoyable movie. Even with flaws and all, it's a brave thing to do a fantasy movie these days.
Yeah, it's
especially
definitely
in
it's
its
definitely
nature.
a new interpretation of King Arthur.
Yeah, and I just love this kind of movie, and I'm always happy to watch them.
It's 2 bold moves in one, really. I mean, when you're doing a fantasy, like you said, it is kind of a risky move, and then trying to interpret it differently. So
Yeah.
I give him credit for that, for sure.
And you also have to think about every other kind of fantasy movie that's out there that's trying to do it. They always have to put in shoehorn some sort of romance in there because people like romance, and I do myself too. But they're always kind of cheesy and just like that's how they do it. It's kind of the formula for fantasy movies these days.
Yeah.
But this one, I think, is actually a really good movie. It gets a lot more hate than it really deserves.
This is going to be up
and I
there
think
for
it's
you.
great.
I would say it's underrated. I'd agree with you.
Definitely.
I think it's actually a great movie, and sure, it's got some maybe some cheese in there a little bit, but I can deal with some cheese. I really like cheese.
It's good.
All right, so you stick by your 8.5.
I do.
Should we
All right.
move on?
Move on.
All right.
pleasure.
Let's see what we got. We have me. All right. No fun. All right. I have a 7.5.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm sticking with my 7.5 on this one. I was back and forth between this one and an 8, and mainly because it was so good in so many spots, but there were so many points where they kind of dropped the ball. It didn't lose me, but I definitely feel like it could have been a lot better. It's hard to say. This is one of the few movies where it was really good and had some really hard moments that dropped. and still keeping a 7.5 is pretty good. I think it's above a lot.
What
of
were
other
your What were
ones.
your issues with it? If you could highlight those again.
Main one is the mage and the whole sequence with her and Arthur and her trying to help him develop. It didn't sell for me.
Yeah. So you're on the same
Exactly
level with me.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
It was like if this had any weight to it at all, this would be okay. But it didn't. It didn't pull me in. Darklands were okay.
So how did you feel about the editing and certain sequences where it's very Guy Ritchie and he's just
that
it's
I'm
a lot
okay with most of the time because that's his style. This is what his interpretation is. I can roll with that, and he sold it in a lot of ways. Some moments better than others, maybe. But overall, this is really good. I liked it. 7.5 is a very
sticking with it.
It's high, but it's not too high.
All right, give me the next one.
Let's see. We have Reese with a 7.5.
Yeah, synergy.
Hey, high five.
All right.
Woo.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I basically stand by how I felt with it way back when I saw it in the theaters. Just a pleasantly, surprisingly entertaining fantasy film that loosely adapts the King Arthur story. I don't think this shares a lot with King Arthur, the actual legend, which is smart. I think it's a smart choice, even though this movie was I'm not going to say it yet, but this movie did not get a sequel. But I think it was a smart idea to reinterpret it and just kind of reinvent King Arthur as a character. That's the only way this could have possibly worked. I mean, it still didn't, but yeah. I have my issues with Guy Ritchie trying to really insert his signature style into almost every frame of this movie. It's like, I know that Guy Ritchie has this inclination to just make everything just intercut in unconventional ways, but I don't feel like that benefited a movie like this. I think if it had told its story in a more traditional way, it could have been a little better. In my opinion, there's certain areas where I do like that Guy Ritchie touch.
Mind if I comment on that real quick?
Go for it. It's fine.
So I agree as a high fantasy lover, but I think also that if he had gone full on high fantasy, while a lot of people would have liked it, and I guess it still failed in the end. Obviously, we're showing it on Franchise Killer, but I do think that there would have been some sort of backlash, or maybe not a backlash, but a lot of people that really didn't like that kind of modern take on, fantasy stuff, because fantasy is not popular or as popular these days. A lot of it is just kind of rated poorly and put down. But I think because of that style, it kind of modernized it a little bit, and it made it a little more likable.
Look,
for
I agree.
A general audience.
And that's why I like it in certain areas of this movie. I think the montage when he's growing up is done very well. That's what I like.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you have simple interactions that he just makes them more complicated in ways that it just made me work more for the information that would have been easier to attain in another movie. So
Fair enough.
But I'll say that the epic moments hit hard. I think the score is amazing. Visually, it's great. I actually like Charlie Hunnam.
We're on the same page on this one.
Yeah, I like Charlie Hunnam in this role. I don't think he's like what I envision as King Arthur, but whatever he's doing here, I think it's working. I like Jude Law as well. So overall, I stand by my 7.5. I'm not going to change it. It's going to stick there.
It does make you think that this one they did portray King Arthur to be quite different from how he is in the books and in other films. But if they had the 5 other movies,
yeah,
I wonder how he would have been throughout them. I'm sure he would have kept a lot of his character, but I bet they would have made him even more noble as it went, and a little more true to the books in some manner.
Maybe. It is weird because the style is more of like a heist meets King Arthur. It does have a weird sort of meshing where it works for one movie, but man, I can hardly imagine this working for 5. But that's, I'd be willing to watch the next one and see how it goes.
I definitely would be down for it. I would want to see where they would take this.
I think it could work because any time that someone says they have a plan for a number of movies, they have a plan for a number of movies.
Let alone Guy Ritchie, right?
It means they've made it work in their heads. It's just a matter of if crowds receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
All right.
next up is AJ. AJ, what's your score?
All right, so review time. Here again, doing a remote after the fact kind of thing because of travel. I appreciate y'all listeners hanging in with us. Hopefully I'm not throwing it off too much, but here we go. So like any other Guy Ritchie film, it's a two-edged sword. On the upside, it's a Guy Ritchie film, and all that goes with it is kind of great visuals and stuff. On the downside, it's a Guy Ritchie film, and it's not for everybody, and especially some of the, I guess, alternative takes on directing are more prevalent here, especially in some of the pacing and some of the quick cuts and flashback kind of sequences, which Reese kind of points to as well. And yeah, I can't say that I would really favor that. They weren't awful, but they did detract from the overall flow of the film. And then also speaking in more general sense of flow for the film, I did read something I guess Charlie Hunnam had said in an interview where a lot of this movie had to be reworked and recut, I guess because there was a cast issue where a major character, probably safe to assume it's Merlin, whoever they cast for it, they kind of went out of the box for and it didn't end up working, so I'm pretty sure that character got cut completely, requiring some major rework for this film. And that's kind of evident that this didn't really feel like the original vision that kind of had a cohesive flow, especially if they were looking for several films in a franchise, which also is kind of not a Guy Ritchie strong suit as well. Like he can probably do a couple films in a row, but doing 7 or something like that, that's not really in his repertoire, or at least wouldn't appeal to most people. Yeah, so that casting issue, definitely you can feel the effects, and that actually probably did most of the damage because of the pacing of the plot, because so much got cut and kind of reworked as far as the timeline of the movie goes. I did like Charlie Hunnam's depiction of kind of a rogue, brutish brawler kind of fighter take on Arthur versus kind of the more traditional stoic regal Arthur. That was a fun take, and it really worked out in my opinion. Jude Law here, I'm a big fan of Jude Law, and a lot of his acting is kind of more of a subtlety, I guess, or there's an intangible aspect about Jude Law's acting, and that might be me kind of copying out, giving him a pass for maybe more of a flat performance here. But I did still get a pretty good feel of Vortigern as a pretty menacing villain, and also a humanistic kind of emotional villain where you do kind of feel his emotion of him sacrificing his wife and his daughter in the end for more power, and you kind of do get the sense that he's unhinged and crazed and dangerous. So I did like that. And then as far as just overall scenery and aesthetic of this movie, it's a Guy Ritchie movie, and that's what I was kind of alluding to, is that's what Guy Ritchie really does well in my books. And then just along with that, the character creation, monster creation, like the giant elephants in the beginning, and the whole magic aspect of artillery that was pointed out, and the Ursula Gorgon siren figure that Vortigern is making that Faustian deal with to get power. And then right along with that, the giant snakes at the end, that really, ironically enough, was another Guy Ritchie film. Aladdin was something that I really wanted and would have fit in well. Some of the aspects he did really well there, I wish he had put into Aladdin, and maybe he reined in because it was more of a Disney kids movie. But especially the giant snakes, like I wanted to see that in, for Jafar at the final confrontation of Jafar. But it's nice to kind of see that he could do that here. All was really drew you into the movie and kind of made it an epic, and it really contrasts to the 2004 King Arthur, where it's kind of this stark, more grounded in medieval or Roman reality. It really left out that romanticism, and this version here really kind of has that visual pop and that more glitzy side of things. And in the end, I do prefer that magic. All that really, the visual pop and just the aesthetic of this movie, the tone really works out well. Unfortunately, it just seems like the plot and pacing of this movie was a casualty of whatever cast correction they had to do and editing. With all that said, and then the dynamic of Hunnam with his cohorts, it worked out well. He was kind of an inspiring figure from growing up within the streets. I felt like he was an inspiring person, maybe not in a traditional Regal sense, but some of that was a little bit of co-opted to fast track him leading the charge in the final tower here. But I could definitely get on board with everyone kind of following in line and respecting him. Maybe not as king right away, but him pulling the sword out of the stone kind of sealed that, and that whole pivotal moment did feel like a big scene. And I'm glad Irina pointed out that, in Arthurian legend, it's not clear cut, but there are two swords for the most popular school of thought. You have Excalibur as, the main sword for Arthur, but there's actually two swords. There's the sword that was in the stone, and there's the sword that the Lady of the Lake gave. And a lot of depictions actually kind of conflate the two swords together. And they actually kind of did that in this version, but they did it in a really well done way that kind of adds a distinguishment to them. And of course, the sword itself, Excalibur, you really got that sense of power, how it kind of overwhelmed him and really made that legendary aspect of it. Hence the title or subtitle of the movie, Legend of the Sword, really provided a strong focal point driving the movie, and harkens back to Uther, the father, who was actually cast very well and played very well, and you do get that other side of the coin from that regalness from Uther. So I think that was smart to put him in kind of as background as well. And overall, pretty much every aspect of the cast all clicked together really well. It's just unfortunate that one outlier of the cast obviously didn't fit into the overall picture, and that kind of wrecked the pacing and progression. So with that kind of big detriment there, I would say overall I'd give this a 7.5, like everybody else here, pretty much. So I like the movie, and I think if it did pan out how Ritchie intended and everything kind of went to plan, then this could have definitely had a successful franchise and definitely elevated it more. So, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate.
Seriously?
And
Wow.
in beating another dead horse,
It's not. It's a part of the show.
Wow, AJ, a 1 out of 10. That's. I know the movie wasn't well received, but that's a little harsh.
he's just
hard.
really
Anyway,
sad he didn't get to see Charlie Hunnam's bare butt.
All right. So,
Everyone was waiting for that.
All right,
I know.
draw
Me
the
too.
last slip.
all right. Last
could it
up.
be?
Oh my gosh, is Irina with a 7.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are very
Consistent.
Yes.
I was not expecting to match two other people. So
Wait, do you think you're going to be higher or lower?
I thought I was going to end up. I'm actually not sure. Really, I don't.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what others would rate this. I'm gonna stick with 7.5. I think that's a just marking for this film.
Justice.
My reasoning for a 7.5 is it's definitely positive in my mind. I think the best way to describe this film is hatched too soon. I think there are some things they should have sat on for a little bit and rewritten or maybe not maybe sort of a recasting of certain characters. I don't know, one or the other. That I think there's something here that's novel, and it almost seems like it was quick to get out there with this new idea, and there's a lot of potential that is sort of squandered.
Yeah.
It's rushed through a lot of its sequences to the point where, while I do like the characters, I don't feel like I got to know them well enough to really care as much as I could have.
I agree.
And I think that's the main problem. There are some computer graphics that I can already see are going to be dated further down the road.
Yeah. But Charlie Hunnam is very handsome.
Oh, yeah.
More
I
like
can't
Charlie
deny that.
Hunkum.
I think
Or Charlie Hung.
Maybe not. I was waiting all show to make that comment.
I like him as a cast for Arthur. I like that Arthur is taking different portrayal as almost the common man becoming a royalty, but still at heart not being royalty. Like, that's not how he was raised or grew up.
And yet he is still part of that
But he
bloodline.
has the nice thing is this character has a sense of honor and a little bit of duty too. Like he does try to run away from that's funny. Duty, David.
He has some sort of moral code.
Yeah, he has a moral compass, and the actual King Arthur character, the archetype, is meant to be the
Mary
best
Sue.
of man's abilities. So while everyone thinks of Arthur as pure and just and does everything right, but actually in the stories he does fail quite a few times. He's not he's very flawed.
He's human?
Yeah.
You're telling me he's human?
So basically, the way other films have tried to portray King Arthur is a little more Galahad-like, because Galahad is the pure one, the best knight, and he's supposed to be the one that's basically without flaw or blemish. But this is weirdly kind of a accurate interpretation of who King Arthur is. I think what diminished this film for me too is the fact that you have such a strong intro with Mordred, who looks very intimidating, and that's a force to be reckoned with, but he's gone within the first few moments, and then we're left with Vortigern, who's a lesser replacement in my opinion, and I don't feel the threat as much as I could have.
Yeah.
I'm criticizing a lot, but technically this movie has a lot of visually gorgeous scenes, and I love a lot of the shots that are taken. The location is beautiful. The costuming is really, really well done. So overall it's positive, but I can't give it any higher than a 7.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
That's fair. Honestly, the CGI also, just to say again, certain parts, it's a little dated. I think a lot of it is going to translate over really well, though. Yeah. Just to say.
I just really respect this movie, though.
Yeah.
I just think that
it tried something
Irina's
different.
right. I think it's slightly before its time. I think fantasy is coming back in a big way in the next couple years, maybe 10 years. But
yeah, it's funny because this. I actually equate this to the Netflix Witcher show, but I feel like this is doing similar things to that show, but better. Yet the Witcher show is being received really well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or not real. I don't want to say really well, but at least positively.
A lot of people really love that show. There's like a bunch of memes about it. A lot of people praising it.
It got way more critical reception than this did. Let's put it that way.
Higher critical reception.
They got more attention. I guess that's what I'm thinking.
What he means is that Witcher is approved of more critically than
Not
this
just that.
is.
It's just good or bad. It's talked about. It's in culture.
No, I know.
This
I know,
one was
but,
not
but,
in culture.
But when you say critically, that
I guess.
usually implies
Yeah.
All right.
people are criticizing.
So y'all want to talk about the performance of this movie? Y'all ready?
Gosh, I just think.
Okay.
Man, I won't say anything.
Box office. Y'all want the budget?
Sure.
Yep.
This movie cost $175 million to make.
Oh no.
I mean, that's a lot, but for what it did, that's not insane.
No, that's massive.
That's insane.
I know it's massive.
I would say it's above what this movie looks like.
Okay,
I would
fair
agree. What looks better, this or Lord of the Rings?
Okay,
We're not talking. We're not going to talk about it because we know.
Lord of the Rings looks a lot better because it's a lot of practical effects.
Yeah.
And
anyway, let's
really good shots.
You guys who are box office familiar, do you want to predict the worldwide total of this movie?
Let's play the box office game.
My bet is 200 million.
200?
213.
213
No. 197.
Considering,
wow,
Yeah.
I
okay.
actually know what the critical reception was as far as what the critics did on Rotten Tomatoes. I accidentally saw it. I think that's going to influence my decision and think that it actually did not do that well.
Yeah,
I'm going
know.
to say like 150, 160, something like that.
Okay. What, 150 or 160?
Yeah, I think it did not do well.
Which one? Pick one.
150.
150. All right, let me guess. Money. All right, the movie did 149 million.
Are you kidding me?
Worldwide.
Shut up, David. I hate you. You need to go die in a well.
Look at your dumb face.
I'm sorry. I'm just
Actually,
All right, so it did 39 million domestically, which is terrible. So U.S. only made.
You mean opening
yeah.
weekend, right?
No.
Oh no.
Overall, 39 million domestically. That's even worse than the 2004 King Arthur, which was also a bomb.
No, don't ruin it.
freaking hate people.
Yeah, so budget-wise, its worldwide total didn't even surpass its production budget. And the production budget's not even factoring in advertising costs, which were likely high for a blockbuster like this. Yeah, it lost Warner Brothers a crap ton of money.
Although respect for them for going through with it still.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it exists. I'm definitely glad it exists. So let's get to reviews, which were also not good. So Rotten Tomatoes, this movie had a 30% from critics.
Although, what was the public reception on Rotten Tomatoes?
Public reception was a
Charlie Hunnam hot.
69%.
Hey there.
So,
hey
and
there.
also, this is a little known fact about Rotten Tomatoes, but the 30% that you see is not actually a genuine representation of a movie's score, but Rotten Tomatoes actually does report the actual, they calculate the scores, and it actually got a 4.7 out of 10. Still not great, but it's better than a 30%. Metacritic. The critic score was 41 out of 100, along with the audience score of 7.2 out of 10. And the IMDb, which is just audience, was a 6.7 out of 10.
Fair.
So I would say mixed reviews.
That's actually IMDb. I think that is more appropriate.
6.7?
Yeah.
Well, even the audience in Rotten Tomatoes was, what, 68%, 69%?
Yeah, because that I think that's actually fair because I know a lot of people aren't behind fantasy. A lot of people don't really actually like it, but it accounts for the actual skill it took to make.
Yeah. So when we're talking about a franchise killed, this movie was dealt the ultimate fatality, both box office wise and critically. This was the definitive end to this franchise.
Charlie
So
Hunnam
sad.
versus the final boss in Dark Souls.
I love this
Fatality.
Yeah. Very poor box office performance. It had to have lost Warner Brothers over $100 million just based off, advertising and it not even being able to come close to matching its budget in box office. And then critics just savaging it. The one silver lining is that audiences actually enjoyed this, as did we. So it has potential for cult following status, but I would say there is no chance in hell that this movie ever gets a sequel.
At least not with the same.
No, it will not.
Like not this. This won't get a sequel, but there one day will be another King Arthur.
Well,
type
yeah, and
movie.
it's not going to be
Well,
this,
yeah,
though.
you can't
Yeah,
get
no,
rid
I
of
know.
the King
I
Arthur
know, that's what I'm
legend.
saying.
It's
Yeah,
always
it's
going
just-
to be
yeah, you're-
It's been around
prevalent.
for 1,000 years.
It does make me very curious to what they had in mind for the next 5 movies of this, because obviously they had mapped out something.
What's annoying though is that this was King Arthur's best bet in the modern day. Mm-hmm. I don't foresee another King Arthur that's going to be as good as this.
Yeah, there's not a better modern interpretation, because this is like a good mix of the medieval Dark Ages and, combining that with the style of today.
Can I get a Daniel Craig, like future King Arthur where he's old, something like that?
I don't know if I see Daniel Craig that way.
Yeah, I don't
Come
know.
on. Come on.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Okay, any last words on this movie before we leave?
Yeah, some final words regarding this. This is the end.
This is the
of
end.
King Arthur,
Yeah.
Legend of the Sword.
How does he actually end in the lore?
I don't know.
He
maybe
dies
you know?
by Mordred's hand in the actual lore.
Mordred
Yeah.
actually being his son.
Wait,
In this,
wait,
it's very
what?
different. Yeah, Mordred
yeah.
is his child.
Yeah, it's
By
it's
incest, usually.
It's a weird story.
Wait, how did she kill him?
How,
He-
what?
Mordred is a dude.
How did he kill him?
Magic. No, actually, I think he stabs him.
No.
But he does stab him. I think what happens is that he doesn't have the scabbard with him. But no, but Mordred actually becomes one of his knights. Like, he's part of his inner circle. He knows who Mordred is, and Arthur was basically tricked into sleeping with his half-sister. And
That's
been
rough.
there.
has a child with her, being Mordred, so he takes Mordred under his wing. And
Or he just like, what if he's just like, he realized and he's like, don't mind if I do.
She is attractive.
a comely wench.
All right.
I hate that word.
All right. Well, that wraps up our 2-part series on King Arthur. Both of these films were massive failures, unfortunately, and I do not see King Arthur getting the cinematic treatment for quite some time. I would say at least a decade.
You know it's going to keep coming back.
I know, but I would
gonna
say
be there.
give it at least a decade.
I have a 0.00001% hope that Guy Ritchie is just like, you know what? I'm gonna make a second one. Screw you guys.
Wait, guys, we did get a sequel after this. We got a full year after this. You know what it was?
What was it?
Hellboy. We got Hellboy instead.
All right, guys. Goodbye.
Was
Bye.